Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Venerable brother, Dhamma friends, basically we were discussing Sallekha Sutta, which is the 8th Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. And just to give a summary, at one occasion Buddha was living at Savatthi, Jetanarama, and Venerable Mahachunda, being an Arahant, arrived the Buddha with many of his students. And at that occasion he is asking a question from the Buddha. Ya ima bhikka bante aneka vihita ditthiyo loke uppaccanti. Attavada patisangyuttava lokavada patisangyuttava. Bhante, there are various different kinds of views. In a way, these are all wrong views are arising in this world. Some are related to a particular person, a being, a self, and some others are related to the world. Adimeva nuko bhante bhikkhuno manasi karoto evametasang ditthinang pahanang hoti evametasang ditthinang patinisaggo hoti. So, will these different wrong views are abandoned at the early stages of the practice? Or will it take fairly long time, one has to practice comprehensively to abandon these views? So, this is the question that he is asking. So, according to the commentary, this was asked because his students, that Venerable Chunda's students, seems to have some sort of a misunderstanding, wrong view, that they are already attained, they are already stream winners, and they already have abandoned Sakkaya Ditthi, but they are still beginners, they are still at the early stages of their practice. So they have had a kind of a overestimation. So this is why Venerable Mahachunda arrived with them and asking the question from the Buddha to abandon that wrong view or estimation prevailed in his students. Now at that time Buddha started preaching a fairly long discourse, and he particularly mentioned that the way to abandon, he in a summary he is mentioning, yes, Venerable Chunda, that these different kinds of views are there, and we can recognize 3 stages of them. Ditthiya uppajjanti, that means they are merely arising in one's mind, not yet hardened in their mind, but in a later time, yattacha anusenti, that means they can prevail in one's mind for a fair amount of time, that's another time, that's another level, and then yattacha samudacharanti, that means their mind is fully covered by them, and they are thinking, their verbal activities, bodily activities are all very much like governed by those wrong views. They are fully overwhelmed, influenced by those views. So these are the 3 stages that the Buddha mentioned, how the views are happening in one's mind. So the criteria to abandon is, whenever they are there, you need to disclaim them, you need to disown them, telling netam mama neso hamasmi na meso attati. So it is not me, it is not myself, it is not I am. Now, so with respect to the 5 aggregates are the ones actually different views may arise once we are analyzing them in a deeper way. And then and there one has to recognize them and have to abandon them. It's a kind of a dynamic activity. So very much like one has to be fully aware, fully mindful about what's really happening in one's mind, what are the thoughts arising in one's mind, and then and there immediately, as much as quickly, that one has to abandon it. So various vipassana techniques may be available, one can employ to do this task. So kind of a methodology or kind of a criteria Buddha is coming up in this sutta. And before going to that, he is basically abandoning another wrong view, thinking that the mere being in a deeper samadhi would cut off the defilements. So he is taking first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, and then he is mentioning if someone is absorbed to that, thinking that while being in the absorption that the defilements are cut off by being so, then that is a wrong view. One should understand it is a mere a happy type of abiding. That's all. And then he went on to explain Akasananchayatana, the boundless space, and then Vijnananchayatana, the boundless consciousness, Akinchanyayatana, nothingness, Nevasanya, Nasanyayatana, neither perception nor non-perception. So there also he mentioned, if someone is thinking while being there on those arupa jhana that the defilements are cut off, they will be completely abandoned. So that is wrong view, and it is merely a peaceful abiding. So having said that, now he is went on to explaining another part. So what is the criteria for the effacement? What is the criteria to abandon the defilements? So basically now he is coming up with a fairly comprehensive list of defilements, and as we discussed last week, we can categorize them into three areas. The one section talking about the wrong activities and the correct activities, right actions. So these are quite familiar to us, related to the karma actually. All these 10 activities mentioned here, that means being cruel, being killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, then falsehood, malicious speech, harsh speech, gossip, covetousness, ill will. These are the dasa akusala kamma pata, the wrong or misdeeds in a way, unwholesome activities. If one is doing them, the fair amount of bad karma being accumulated, then one has to pay for them. One may get one has to face some disagreeable type of vipaka results, because these are unwholesome activities. And then he is talking about the opposite, the wholesome activities, not being cruel, instead one being sympathetic and not killing animals, so one is refraining from that, not taking what is not given, and being celibate, and avoiding any falsehood, avoiding malicious speech. So likewise the opposites are being explained. So those are the dasa kusala kamma pada, and if one is practicing, so that will produce the favorable results. So this is a very basic sammaditthi in a way. So probably you can remember when we were discussing Sammaditthi Sutta. So the very first thing Venerable Sariputta highlighted is that Kusalancha pajanati, akusalancha pajanati. Kusala moolancha pajanati, akusala moolancha pajanati. One should know what is wholesome, what is unwholesome, and one should know what are the roots of wholesomeness and what are the roots of unwholesomeness. So this is a very basic kind of a sammaditthi. But even though I say it basic, it is very much like the foundation. So this understanding should be there in a way to accept the karma, the results of karma. One's actions are, so one has to be responsible of one's actions. So this is what the fundamental type of sammaditthi, kammasakata sammaditthi. So then, so the idea here is effacement here. So one might have some wrong, habitual, instinctual type of desire to steal, for example. Say for example, if you go to a supermarket, there could be a little desire rising in one's mind, and there may be a desire, instinctual desire, to steal something, because they are displayed really beautifully, and anyway you don't have much money with you, but you might get a desire to steal, for example. But at that moment, how to avoid that wrong habit is to avoid it, or we can say to completely refrain from doing it, completely abstaining stealing. So in a way, this is in a way the moral code. So you all know that the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, 10 precepts, then the novice precepts, and then the Upasampada, the higher ordination precepts. Now all are different levels of morality that Buddha has mentioned. So this is the moral code, the ethical conduct that Buddha has mentioned. So here we are talking this level actually. So how one is protecting oneself from all these evil type of habitual tendencies can occur in one's mind by basically conducting oneself into the moral code. You are abiding by certain moral code, some ethical conduct, certain precepts. So here one should know what are they. So otherwise one can't do it. So therefore the 10 precepts themselves are giving this kind of a background, kind of a moral code. 5 precepts are giving, 8 precepts are giving, high ordination precepts are giving. So one is very much like now trying to abide by that, adhere to it. So this is one way of effacement. Actually in the Sabbasava Sutta that is called the Samvara Pahatabba. So in a way you are restraining yourself. You are not allowing the instinctual habits to function or overwhelm your mind. And then Buddha went on to tenfold wrongness and rightness. So this is actually the eightfold path, noble eightfold path, plus the another 2 added, and we can say noble tenfold path. Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi, Samma Jnana, Samma Vimutti. Now these are 10 items furthering actually one's behavior. Now this also has some sort of an overlapping. Now say when we are discussing Noble Eightfold Path, that is being divided into Sila Sikha, Samadhi Sikha, and then the Wisdom Sikha. And the Sila, the training of the Sila, training of the concentration, and training of the wisdom. And there also Sila is discussed. So already we have certain items already discussed under the Sila. So therefore these 44 items we can't say extremely, very precisely, completely unique. So there are certain overlappings, and that we can understand by going through these items. And then another 24 mental impurities are further mentioned. So say for example, others will be overcome by sloth and torpor. We shall be free from sloth and torpor. Here effacement should be practiced. Others will be restless. We shall not be restless. Others will be doubters. We shall go beyond doubt. So likewise the kind of a very practical way of living, because one is living in the society, one can see others, the vast majority, the majority of people, how they are behaving. So they are instinctually going through those habits. They are simply obeying their habits. And they become very much like victims to those habits. But now Buddha is inviting, okay, don't do that. So you need to abide by certain moral conduct. Even though you can see others are not behaving according to the moral conduct, you should behave according to this moral conduct. So you can see the argument here is very much like one being in a human being in this society, one can see how others are functioning. But that observation can make us little relax in our behavior as well. And suppose you are associating certain group of people who are into the alcoholism, and your friends are participating in various parties and using alcohol, and you also can easily get attracted to that kind of a behavior. So that is easily happening. But the Buddha's advice here is, okay, don't follow that instinct. Don't follow that wrong habit. Others may be doing it, but you should not do it. Now you are turning yourself from an entirely different path, old habits, to a new path, new, fairly responsible, fairly moral, ethical, wise kind of a path. And for that you are giving fair amount of proper understanding and kind of a moral conduct, kind of a determination. And not only that, you are practicing as well. Because the tenfold path actually covers fair amount of comprehensive information. If once we go to the detail, so that means it is not merely behavior, but you need to develop as well. Now you can't achieve Samma Jnana, Samma Vimutti merely by listening, merely by say studying. You need to practice. So then only your mind get liberated. So Samma Vimutti means your mind is liberated. Now this itself is a fairly comprehensive list. 44 items are fairly comprehensive. As I said, there are certain overlappings, and again it also can be divided into Sila Samadhi Panya in a way. In certain items are belonging to the moral side, the other side is to the concentration, other side is to the wisdom. Now after mentioning that, now he is going to another area, inclination of the mind, Chittupada. Chittuppadampiko ahang chunda kusalesu dhammesu bahukarang vadami. Kopanavado kayena vachaya anuvidiyanasu. So Chunda, I say that even the inclination of mind towards wholesome states is of great benefit. So what should be said of bodily and verbal acts confirming to such a state of mind? So now, as we already discussed, now he is very much like determined to go into this proper side. He already has understood what are the unwholesome and what is wholesome. Now here he is determining, okay, I need to abandon the unwholesome, I need to be in the wholesome side. Not only that, I need to develop the wholesome side, wholesome qualities. Now, in one sense, all the defilements are very much like acting to reduce one's good qualities. Some good human qualities are not being practiced because certain influence are coming from these unwholesome, say, habits. Now, one is now trying to correct oneself, and in one sense, by means of adhering to certain rules, certain ethics, certain moral code, and on the other hand, now one is determining in one's mind, okay, I need to practice in this way. So you are inclining your mind. You are again and again sort of thinking about it. Okay, I need to give up stealing. I need to give up stealing. I need to give up stealing. So this kind of a development of certain moral, ethical, correct, wholesome kind of a thought in one's mind is very essential, because one's mind may be wrongly programmed in a way, wrongly conditioned. By hearing the Buddha's teaching, now you are very much like debugging that wrong program. So already certain buggy program is there. If you are coming to the software, now you are, instead of recognizing those bugs, and now you are trying to correct them. It's very much like proofreading. Say certain information is there, now you recognize whether it is giving the correct meaning, or whether there are spelling mistakes, whether any kind of grammar mistakes, etc. So you are very much like debugging it, proofreading it. Similarly, so mind also, so in order to do that, you need to have a kind of, okay, I need to do it. So this inclination, this starting part, so you are arousing that eagerness, you are arousing that necessity in the one's mind. So that is what Buddha highlights here. So once you recognize those 44 items, okay, now let me begin it. Let me do it. Now you are doing it practically. So that practical doing part, again actually the 44 items are mentioned. Mind should be inclined thus. Others will be cruel. We shall not be cruel. Mind should be inclined thus. Others will kill living beings. We shall abstain from killing living beings. So likewise, pare vihinsaka bhavisande mayametta avihinsaka bhavisamati chittang uppade tabbang. So again and again, you are very much like correcting the attitude of the mind. So it's a kind of it is not mere meditation in a way, but not completely free from the meditation also, because if you want to recognize the wrong mental habit, you should be aware of the mind. Now, you can't be aware of the mind because if it is compulsively, immediately, if you are jump into the activity, then you don't get the chance to look at the mind. So that is why in a way we can recognize now the value of the mindfulness, satipatthana, because that impulsive behavior is very much reduced when you are practicing mindfulness. So then only you get a chance, okay, I can recognize. So you are stepping back and recognizing, so what are the impulsive thoughts arising in my mind? Am I able to abandon them? Am I able to avoid that? So now this part is actually this avoidance. So you already have an inclination of the mind. This is the path I need to take. Now again and again you are recognizing, so what is wrong and what is correct, and you are avoiding what is wrong, and you are only conducting in the proper path. So the avoidance side is also very much understood. Siyathapi chunda visamo maggo assa tasa anyo samo maggo parikkamanaya seyatha vapana chunda visamang tittang assa tassa anyang samang tittang parikkamanaya. So basically in the avoidance part Buddha mentioned, suppose there were an uneven path and another even path. So then one can avoid the uneven path and one can take the proper path, the even path. And similarly uneven ford and an even ford, and you can take the even ford. So likewise, you are now selecting in a way. Now this is actually the sampajanya. So you are, whenever a task is at your hand, so you are kind of doing a kind of a weighing of it to recognize whether it is something correct, something wrong, something wholesome, something unwholesome. So you are avoiding the unwholesome, only doing the wholesome. So in a way, what are we doing by acting like this? So you are not feeding that wrong impulse in the mind. Say for example, you are used to drink alcohol, and now you heard the Buddha's teaching, you heard about this ethical conduct. So you are determining, okay, the inclination part, the determining, okay, I am going to avoid it. I am going to stop this alcoholism. I am not going to participate in it anymore. So this is a kind of a determination. But now you get an opportunity, okay, there is a invitation coming from your friends, your old friends. Okay, let's go to a pub or let's go to some other place and let's have a drink. Let's participate to this kind of a party or whatever. So now you need to do this weighing. You need to do the kind of a critical consideration. So what should I do? Shall I avoid it or shall I participate? If I participate, I definitely have to go back to the old habit. I am promoting that old habit. What should I do? So likewise, now it is a very much like a practical living. It is not mere thinking. Now you have to practically do it. So all these 44 things are very much like explaining different occasions how different mental impurities can arise in one's mind and what are the possibilities conducive to develop those mental impurities and how you are going to avoid it. So it's very much like working around. So you are working around the opportunity so that the old habit is not being promoted, strengthened. Instead, that is being weakened, and you are very much like into the development of the proper habit. Very much like you are reprogramming the whole thing without simply allowing the mind to impulsively participate in that old habit. So you take the control to your hand, very much like you are in the manual mode. So the autopilot mode is very much going through the defilements, promoting defilements. Now you are developing mindfulness, you are aware of the situation. So you are aware of what's going to happen. In case it is wrong, and in case it is the wrong habit going to be promoted, you are stopping it, you avoid it, you take the correct path. So again, Buddha list all those 44 items. A person given to cruelty has non-cruelty by which to avoid it. One given to killing living beings has abstention from killing living beings by which to avoid it. So every time all these wrong sides are available with the right sides. So you select now. Kind of a proper selection criteria is there. So you have the proper vigilance, proper judgment. Okay, what is good, what is correct, what is wholesome, or what is unwholesome, what is bad, what is incorrect. So you have this proper judgment, and accordingly you are doing only the correct thing, you are avoiding the bad thing. So avoidance part. So this is actually a practical thing. It is not superficially you thinking about it, only you limit it to the thinking or talking, but you are doing it now. Now we are coming to the leading upwards. Now when you are doing like that, slowly what happened to the old habits in the mind? Now sayathapi chunda yekechi akusala dhamma sabbete adobhagan gamaniyaya yekechi kusala dhamma sabbete uparibhaga gamanaya. So basically all the unwholesome type of activities, all the unwholesome engagements, all the unwholesome different involvements further strengthen the old habit. As we already discussed, now say someone is into the stealing. So he again and again stealing. So his mind attuned towards stealing. Whenever things are there, he easily now get into the stealing habit because he promoted that. Now say one is into sexual misconduct. So there may be a desire and there may be an opportunity, but if you promoted that, if you use that opportunity, so the next time you might do it easily. Previously you have certain even doubt, but if you do it, now you might even get into the situation quite easily because it is now used to. You are used to do that. Now we need to recognize the kind of a risk involved here. So if we are promoting certain inclination in one's mind to any direction, either to the wholesome or either to unwholesome, so that is the direction that mind get inclined towards. Say for example, if you are promoting certain lustful behavior in your mind, so more and more your mind get inclined towards that lustful behavior. But if you are very much like purposely inclining your minds towards the renunciation, so that is the direction later mind will get inclined towards. So we are very much like the controller now, we are very much like the governor now. So don't allow the old habit to govern you, old habit to make you a slave. But by listening to the Dhamma, Buddha has given a kind of a criteria. Okay, this is good, this is bad, this is wholesome, this is unwholesome. So you determine, okay, I should travel in the wholesome side, should abandon the unwholesome side. Whenever opportunities are there, so you are avoiding the unwholesome side and only participating in the wholesome side. So that is a practical thing. And as you are doing it, so you need to recognize whether you are moving upward. So how are you moving upward? So you need to recognize, okay, now I am not getting too many lustful thoughts, for example. Now say, previously you are more into sensuality, more into sense desires. Your mind is overwhelmed by sense desires. And you probably have even promoted that. As much as possible you went to the theaters, you went to looking different movies, and you went to parties, and say you are into singing, dancing and all that, fully indulging of the sense desires. Say at one point, assume that now you decide, okay, I need to stop this, I need to change my life. You come to that Chittuppada. So you decide, you arouse that urgency in your mind. Now you stop that old habit. You are not promoting that old habit. Now opportunities are still arising. Even though you decided, still the opportunities are arising. So at that time, so you decide, okay, I am not going to participate, I am not going to involve. If so, I am still promoting that old habit, so I am not going to participate, I am going to avoid. Now slowly, so you are practically, behaviorally, you are sort of weakening that old habit. You are weakening that defilement in a way. So after a while, now say for example, you are into that kind of a proper behavior for 1 year. So what would be the result? So after 1 year, once you introspect, what you can see in your mind, so there may be a lessening of the sensuality. There may be a lessening of the sensual desires. Because you haven't promoted it, you haven't participated into activities practically which are promoting that old habit. For 1 year you are able to practice like that. So once you recognize after 1 year that yes, there is certain weakening of the defilements, my old habitual instincts are not overwhelming me, but now I have certain control. Now I am experiencing some kind of peace in the mind, some lightness in the mind. Now that helps us to understand, okay, yes, now I am leading upward. Now the mind is leading upward. So leading upward, the recognition also in a way quite important. Then only we can say this method is working. Otherwise, say for example, you are doing it for a while and again abandoning it, again back into the old habit, again you are participating into something, again you decide, again you stop for a while, you are abstaining from something for a while, again you participate. Now this is not going to work. So this is what sometimes happening to us. Say even in a retreat environment, say you participate to your retreat, you are trying hard to develop say mindfulness, and after going back home you completely forget, you have no time, you are not investing some time to your practice, so ultimately everything collapses. So same thing even for the behavior. If you decide, okay, I am not going to involve with any kind of a sensual behavior, say wrong kind of sexual habit for example, and you stop it for a while, but if you start it again, then you are promoting back the old habit again. So in a way, it doesn't mean that we have to immediately 100% perfect. There may be instances that we may go wrong. So that is why Buddha has given certain provision. Okay, in case certain mistake happen, so don't hide it. You come to a good person, you come to the Buddha, you come to the Dhamma, Sangha, and you again decide, again you determine, okay, this mistake has happened, I couldn't keep my moral conduct, at this particular place I was unmindful, I went through the instinctual habit, I did this wrong offense. Okay, done, come on, no problem. Okay, let's restart then. So kind of a very practical approach. Dynamically you have to live that. Certain mistakes can happen, but your inclination is always to the moral good side. Still you are not perfect. Time to time still certain shortcomings can happen, but your inclination is into the moral side. Inclination is into the good side. So therefore, as you are more and more participating into the good side, the wholesome side, probably you may understand the strength of the defilements are now reduced. Strength of the old habitual instincts are now reduced. So the how many sensuality related, sexuality related fantasies occupying your mind, so that may be reduced. Say for example, you are into practice, say you started that 2 years ago. Now before 2 years, say you are into more fantasizing. So most of us are into fantasizing. Say particularly during our young age, So you are fantasizing about the future. How to prepare a house, maybe how to get a profession, how to marry a person, a partner, and how to live with him or her. So many fantasies are there. A lot of fantasies. Now say if you are promoting that, then you are more into fantasizing. There is no rest to the mind. You are more into obsessions. And you might even get into a kind of lunatic behavior. But assume now you are into practice. Say now you are practicing Satipatthana for a while. And slowly you are developing mindfulness. You are establishing mindfulness. So you are reducing this fantasization. You are reducing this proliferation. Now assume that you are thoroughly into the meditation, thoroughly into Vipassana, and you recognize, okay, this fantasies, fantasization, fabrication, proliferation, all that are really harmful. Let me, as much as possible, calm down the mind. Make the mind silent. Make the mind free from fantasization. Make the mind free from proliferation. So after you recognize that urgency, you implement that urgency. So slowly you may understand, okay, now less fantasies. Previously, often I get into fantasies. Often I was into the fabrication. Often I am into the prapancha. But now I feel it as a burden. Now mind can't bear it. Mind feel like burdened when it is into the fantasies, when it is into the proliferation. So because the sensitivity of the mind is increasing, and now mind prefers a non-fantasization, non-proliferation, nippapancha. So we need to recognize this growth in a way. Now, whether we are as a result of our practice, are we able to recognize this growth in the mind, this change in the mind? So was the mind more refined now? Was the mind more silent now? Is the mind very much like calm, relaxed now? You are not often being attacked by defilements. You are not often being attacked by various habitual tendencies. Time to time they may arise. You are not yet perfect, but overall, what's the difference? Overall, is there any improvement? So this is how we need to recognize whether we are leading upward. Now Buddha particularly mentioned this part here. So as a result of our proper behavior, proper practice, so are we recognizing that we are moving to the upside? So not being carried away by the stream, rather now you are going against the stream. You are getting closer to the other shore. Not being very much like caught in the same shore, but you are into getting closer to the other shore now. It's a kind of a struggle because the old habitual tendencies are promoting that old habit, but you started going against them, going against the current, and you working on it. Practically, you are avoiding the wrong side. You are developing the correct side. You are well determined for that. And all that is now happening practically. Now, are you feeling that you are moving upward? So now Buddha mentioning that also, a person given to cruelty has non-cruelty to lead him upward. One given to killing living beings has abstention from killing living beings to lead him upward. So likewise, so there is this proper path always bringing us upward. Now there's a little interesting simile I can take here. Actually, on one occasion, King Mahanama, he asks from the Buddha, Bhante, I am quite busy. I am a king. I have a lot of activities, maybe administrative activities at the palace, and I have to participate in various meetings. I have to meet the ministers. I have to sometimes get into certain external affairs in the country. So many activities are there. So being a king, so I am responsible for many things. Suppose on such occasion, if I being killed, what should happen to I? So what would be my say future? But interestingly, this King Mahanama is not a mere king. He's a good practitioner. He has fairly practiced well, and Buddha knew that he's already an attained person. So at that time, he consoled King Mahanama, saying, "King, don't worry. So your life is already very much into the proper side. You are more inclined towards that side. So what happened to your mind after the death?" Now he is giving this very beautiful simile, which shows how it is going upward in a way, in a metaphorical way. That Buddha is taking a simile of a pot of ghee. So there's a pot, it is being filled with ghee, and now you take it under the water and you smash it, you break it, and once it is broken, so what happened to ghee? Now that is the question he asked from King Mahanama. And then King Mahanama answers, "Bhante, the pieces of the clay pot may drop down because it is already broken, but the ghee will go upward the water because it is very lighter than water. So the ghee will go upward." Similarly, Mahanama, so when you are coming to the death, maybe accidentally, even though the body collapse, even though the body die, so your mind might die and then it collapse, but the mind being fairly influenced by the wholesome proper activities, proper behavior, it will move upward. You may be born in a fairly fortunate place, a fortunate opportunity. So likewise, moving upward in a way indicate that the mind is now not very much like ready to go to the hell realm, so such kind of a woeful state, and it can't bear such woeful state, and you can't bear it even while you are in this life. So whenever you are trying to put yourself into that wrong type of a thing, mind might refuse it. You can't bear it. So mind is very sensitive, mind is very lighter, mind is fairly kind of silent. So as a result of that, say for example, the proliferation for a long time makes you quite unhappy, makes you kind of burdened, and you feel kind of tired if the mind is getting to too much thinking. So mind may ask, okay, I need a break, I need kind of a relaxation, I need quietude. So this is a kind of inner call now coming, because mind is now getting to a different side. Now, so therefore, so the point highlighted here is that you are recognizing that mind is now moving towards the very sensitive, proper, lighter, relaxed, non-grasping, freed kind of a state. So that means the mind is moving upward. Now actually we are coming to the last one. Probably I think we'll take it next day. So actually there's a very beautiful simile also here. I think we'll cover that with some other additional information. And since we are more into the practice now, recognizing defilements and practicing to the proper side, and now one is recognizing, okay, now I am moving upward. Now let's get into the last part next week. And with that, I will conclude today's Sutta teaching session. Now I like to open the session for discussion. Anything?
Is there a question on your side, Bhante?
Not yet. Any question?
Okay.
Hola, moving upward. Kelling will need to ask something. So anyway, I'll ask. Anyway, Keshan has a question. We'll go to that.
you able to unmute?
Yes. Thank you, Vanaya. I really like the talk, and I think you basically brought up how to sort of train your mind and etc. Towards moving towards this salvation.
Correct.
And I believe, so when I think as a young child, of course, we have always conceptual ideas. We always want to build, like, as a child, you probably play with a certain type of toys, maybe cook with your little sisters and, do a clay pot and try to sort of create certain things. So on this concept, you basically create something good for the meal that cannot be consumed, maybe whatever that you sort of create. So I think in the advance towards towards the mature man, of course, you have certain type of, I think it's time for me to get to college and work through hard and etc. so and so forth, and to get married and to have kids, to have families. And I think we all have, some of us have gone through that process. Through this as well, what I see, some, like, you get into this, let's have a drink with a friend, and that has caused, I guess, more damage than bringing that type of a freedom or that sort of sensation, or maybe a relaxed kind of thing. But what we try to do is more harm more than the relaxed mind.
Yeah, correct. Now the thing is, actually we find it as a kind of escape, because currently the responsibilities may be too much and the problems may be unbearable and the pressure coming is also unbearable, so you want to escape.
Right.
So how you are trying to escape? Maybe through alcohol, maybe through a party, maybe through a pub or whatever. So that is why, so it is not the proper solution, because again you need to go back to the old rut in a way. So even though you are able to temporarily subside, temporarily kind of forget about the problem, but the problem is still there. It is not the proper solution. So therefore, that's why people are taking these shortcuts, and they want to completely deprive from their situation, the reality. They want to escape from the reality, but unfortunately the reality is coming behind them. The problems are still coming behind them, because probably because of this wrong behavior, that old problem will further aggravate. So that is the other side. This fellow might get harmed by someone. He may again get into a quarrel, get into an argument. Further problems might arise, or probably his health being affected. So many other unseen problems are also coming to the picture. Now he is further aggravating the problem. But on the other hand, he wisely decides, okay, there is no escape through this path, so let me do the avoidance part. And he is looking properly, wisely, what are the reasons, so what are the proper solutions, so how I can come to a solution for the long-term benefit, not a very kind of a short-term thing, but how to go for a long-term benefit, long-term solution. So likewise, one has to be quite vigilant, wise, in order to come to a proper solution. And once you are slowly in that proper path, slowly you may feel that relaxation. Slowly you may feel that calming down, the peacefulness, the lighter atmosphere in the mind, relaxed atmosphere in the mind. So many areas are there. So you might not be immediately come to vipassana knowledges and abandon the defilements, but at least you may be able to avoid that old action You are restraining yourself. You are putting certain fence around you. You are coming to the terms, okay, I am not getting to this particular thing again, so let me try to control it for the moment. So that habitual instinct, you are controlling it in a way. Maybe by force. Still it is arising in the mind. Still it is trying to compel you, but you are now trying to use your willpower to stop it. So therefore, still it is not that the defilements is abandoned. Again and again the compulsive, instinctual, habitual type of need is arising in one's mind. But you are trying to use an opposite force to avoid it. But later you are not only doing this, you are getting to the mindfulness path as well. You are developing the mindfulness. You are more and more aware of your mind. You are more and more developing certain body awareness. And that body awareness further developed, you are able to recognize the emotions happening in you, instinctual, habitual, these habits happening in you. So all that are very much like self-awareness now. So you are understanding your own behavior. Not very much like you are blindly following the instincts. Now you are very much like scrutinizing. You are like monitoring what's really going on in me. You are understanding your weaknesses. You are understanding your, say, strengths. So likewise, it's a kind of a self-investigation. So the mindfulness, in a way, giving a very good opening to do that investigation. So slowly you can untangle the whole thing now.
Yes, definitely. I agree with you on those. So with the practice itself now, if you don't have Kalyana Mitra association to show you, hey, I think what you're doing is something wrong, you want to get to the right path. Otherwise you will be in that same place thinking,
Correct.
oh, having a drink is a great thing, relax. But the next day you will suffer from those consequences.
Correct.
Not seeing that. So I think there has to be willpower. I guess there has to be a good association and certain type of guidance. Like once you've been given that, you have to sort of make sure that you work through that process as well.
Correct.
I thought this is a perfect analogy, and then
Yeah, very
at
good.
the end how you brought up the question when the simile, taking the clay pot with the ghee and under the water bed you just break it, and of course the ghee is much more lighter, that will surface, but the clay itself is in density wise it is greater than the water, so it will always sink up.
Correct.
The separation is how your mind sort of gets separated from that. So it's a beautiful analogy, and I think you see this through your past when you analyze it, how your mind was and how your mind is now.
Correct.
And that sort of a change. So I think this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
as you said, actually, Buddha critically emphasized the proper association. That's very, very true.
Yes.
So that's why he is particularly mentioned this whole, the whole of the wholesome path is the Kalyana Mittata. So you need that inspiration, you need that guidance, you need that motivation coming from someone, starting from the Buddha. He is the best Kalyana Mitta. He has given us an example, he has given the teaching, and he has shared the path, he has shared various practical points. So all that Kalyana Mittata is very much like the ground. I 100% agree with you, and there are many suttas explaining that, highlighting that, okay, to abandon the ignorance, Kalyana Mittata is the starting point in a way. Very correct.
Yes. So yeah, I really like these sermons, and these are the kind of things what we should listen and then The
Yes.
reason why I'm saying, because I myself was in that mad spot, but I realized, over the period of time, you can change. Anything can be changed.
Exactly.
So I guess.
That's another point. Yeah, that's very good. That actually only recently the scientists accepted that the brain can be changed. So they were with the wrong view that the brain is already programmed during your early childhood, and once it is programmed, you can't change. But the later fMRI, this experiments and all related to mindfulness practice, they understood, yes, still the brain can be changed through meditation, through proper mental behavior. The brain structure can be changed. So that means it's become now rooted in the brain. Only at the beginning you need to do a fair amount of hard work, and once it is properly programmed, now the brain is happening, the program is properly working. It's very much like running a virus, what's that, virus guard?
Right.
And antivirus, yes, kind of an antivirus.
guard.
Yeah. So once during that time, it may consume fair amount of resources. You know that virus guards are basically consuming certain amount of resources. So during that time, you are in a kind of a little, say, difficult time, because the virus debugging process is going on. So disinfection is going on. But once the disinfection has happened, now a kind of a lightness is there. Now the program is running properly in a smoother way, and slowly you can understand, okay, now the mind has come to the proper path, correct path. Less defilements now, less burning now, less regrets now, and you feel lighter. So that also needs to be understood. So after a while, after a certain amount of practice, so what are the type of changes happen in me? Changes happen in the mind. So if we are not appreciating that, if we are unable to recognize that, so then you can't feel appreciative about the practice either. So time to time, such kind of an introspection is quite necessary to appreciate, yes, something is going on. Now the mind is into this side. Now mind is not often got into that old habits. Still time to time it may happen, but not often, not like before. So that change needs to be recognized, and that has to be appreciated also. So very much like treating a little child. So that child may be into some wrong behavior, maybe because of some bad association. But as a parent, once you are very much like put him into the proper path, and after your close examination, close observation, supervision, say after a while, if you see the good behavior in him, even with your absence, even when you are not present, if you can see the good behavior in him, so that means the proper behavior is now very much like inculcated, fairly cultivated in his mind. Now you don't need to do a very strong, strict kind of a supervision, because the fellow has understood the proper path. He is now even appreciating that, he is benefiting from that, he is stepped into the proper path.
Yes, and also once you sort of, one of the other things that I've, with my experience in this process, you have to be always mindful of all the time, and sometimes the moment the unmindfulness come in, your practice, majority of your practice was like unmindful. But now you have learned about what the benefit of mindfulness. Still, time and time again, when you do action, it becomes unmindful, and then certain slip of the tongue, things happen, and then the moment you realize, oops, I made that mistake. Why? Because I was not mindful.
Correct.
So I guess, like this is a beautiful thing in all sorts of surroundings. It just enforces you to be mindful to all you say and how you say it, and things what comes into you as well.
Correct. Yes, very good. That's why, I mean, Thiruvan Saranai. So that's why Buddha mentioned Sada Sato Sikke. Sada Sato Sikke. So be ever mindful and sort of developing yourself, training yourself. Very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thiruvan Saranai.
Yeah, Thiruvan Saranai. No more questions? Okay, that's one question. Yeah.
Let's try Swami once. In the Mahachattarishika Sutta you asked me to read, it talks about the Eightfold Path as well and the Tenfold Path as well.
Correct.
But Buddha also mentioned that there is one side of the Eightfold or Tenfold Path with attachment and defilements that are like samadhi. There is one side that has attachment and defilements. Would this be what we were talking about, like having to use willpower? Then the other side of the, say, the Eightfold Path, let's say samadhi, and then there is one side without attachment, without defilements, without having to force yourself. So that would be the mind that is natural, that has developed already. Would I be right in saying this, or can you share your wisdom on this?
No, basically now, so when it comes to Mahachattarika Sutta, so first thing is that it is pointed out that the, say, samadhi, for example, has the mundane kind of samadhi and the supramundane side of samadhi. So first of all, we need to recognize what is the mundane samadhi, and we have to establish ourselves in the proper mundane samadhi. So there it is talking about the micchaditi. So we need to understand what is micchaditi, what is samadhi. Say what is miccha vacha, what is samma vacha. So always there's a miccha side also, wrong side also. So you are recognizing what is wrong side and what is correct side. So this is a kind of a knowledge anyway. Still a kind of a theoretical knowledge about what is correct, what is wrong. So theoretical knowledge about, say, micchaditi. So micchaditi is, say, killing animal has no issue, no karma. Say, so you do various kinds of sacrifices and killing animals. So it says micchaditi. Say, and thinking, okay, there is no point of helping elders, helping parents, and there is no any result. Say you are not believing in karma, so you simply behave like a irresponsible person because you are into the micchaditi. But on the other hand, the samadhi side, there Buddha recognize, okay, so there are results, there are wholesome activities, there are unwholesome activities, there are wholesome benefits if you are doing proper things to help one's parents, you help one's teachers or whatever, all that. So that you are recognizing as a good thing, and now you need to abandon the wrong thing and abide by the correct thing. So there you need kind of a samma vayama. So the correct energy, effort is required to abandon that wrong view and to abide by the correct view. And for that you need to have mindfulness. So because you need to do it practically, as this Geshan highlighted. So we have to be mindful every time as much as possible, because we never know when that old wrong view arises in one's mind, isn't it? So you need to trace that wrong view immediately once it is arising in one's mind, and now you need to put an effort to abandon that wrong view and to abide by the correct view. So therefore in the Mahachattarika Sutta, so Buddha later highlights this very kind of a dynamic process. So it is not that path factors are working in unison, rather they are working as a group. So say samma vacha, so you know what is miccha vacha, you know what is samma vacha. So that is the knowledge, that is the samma, this is the right view. So you have that knowledge as a fact, as a truth. Then whenever there is an opportunity to lie, for example, and now it is there, someone is asking you, someone is interrogating, someone is asking certain questions from you. Have you seen that? Now easily you can lie. Okay, that's the opportunity. So now there may be instinctual inclination coming that, okay, I better lie. I can escape easily if I lie. So that is where you need to be mindful. Okay, now this fellow is now trying to get into that old habit. Now you are putting an effort. Okay, I am not going to lie, but I am going to say the truth. Now you are applying an effort to abandon the wrong speech, adhere to the right speech. Now you are doing it. Okay, now I am telling only the truth. So likewise, so the whole path become a very dynamic process. So you are working with the ground knowledge about the Samma view, the correct view, and Micca wrong view, and you weigh that. You are always inclined towards the correct side, and you are implementing the correct side. And for that you need mindfulness, you need time to time exert effort. So this is how I understood the Mahachattalika Sutta. I don't know whether I answered your question.
Oh yeah, my question is, there is two, the mundane and the super mundane. Does that mean the super mundane is only for the
no, not at all.
area?
Not at all. Actually, super mundane there has a fairly vast spectrum. Say, for example, Sammaditthi. So Buddha starts not immediately with Sammaditthi. He says Panya, Panyindriyam, Panya Balang, Dhammaviche Sambojjangam, Sammaditthi Magganga. So just starting with mere Panya. So mere Panya means, say, for example, you are into walking path, and now so you are trying to recognize the different element characteristics. That also Panya. So you are penetratively looking at. You are not simply surface level practicing. Rather, you are penetratively looking at what's really going on. What are the characteristics? So what are the element characteristics? What is the earth characteristics? What is the water characteristics? So likewise, you are introducing this inquiring, investigative kind of a quality into the practice. So that is Panya. That is the Yoniso Manasikara. That is the Panya. And so once it is being developed, now you can understand there are certain days, okay, my wisdom aspect is very vigilant. So today I can penetratively look at all the problems. I easily get the kind of solutions. Like instinctively I am getting some good solutions. I never thought about such a solution. It came to my mind quickly. So likewise you understand now the wisdom is operative in my mind. So that is where the wisdom faculty, Panyindriya. You see the Panya, Panyindriya, Panya Bala. Now as you continue, later you recognize, okay, now I know how to arouse that skill. So you have some practical methods to arouse such a penetrative skill in one's mind, and it is fairly operative in you. Particularly you can recognize various little defilements. So that means you are very sharp now. So that means it has come to a fairly good level, the Panya to a fairly good level. Now it is evolving to the Bojjhanga level. So likewise, so still you may not be an Arahant. You are still operating. So therefore, so this correct side or the Noble Eightfold Path is not to the Arahant. I mean, it is already to the person who is into the practice. So he is developing this Noble Eightfold Path, and once he completed it, then he can say, okay, I have come to the tenfold path. The Arahant is having the tenfold path. Because of the development of the eightfold path, he now has experienced a fair culmination of the wisdom, and as a result of that, your mind is completely liberated, completely freed. You are enjoying the freedom of mind, not by very effortful practice, but as a result, you are enjoying the freedom. Something like that. Got it?
Yes, Bhante.
Yeah.
So can I say that as long as we practice, we have some super mundane qualities?
Definitely, we can say so. That's why that Buddha mentioned. So when you are at to the Indriya level, Indriya level means you recognize these wholesome qualities and you practically get involved with developing those qualities. You are not merely superficially reading a book and stop there, forget it there. Rather, you are practically doing something to develop these skillful activities or skillful qualities in you. You may be developing mindfulness, you are developing effort. Time to time when the mind collapses, you are arousing energy. So you are practically doing something. So that is the time you can say, okay, the Indriya, the faculties are now, the spiritual faculties, okay, the spiritual faculties are now being developed by the yogi. So that is the time Buddha introduced, this Saddhanusari, Dhammanusari into the picture. So if your main faculty is Saddha, you are keeping Saddha as the main thing and you are driving yourself towards the path, okay, you are considered as a Saddhanusari. Suppose you are more into the investigation, you want to understand what are these Vipassana knowledges, how to arouse this, and you are investigating more into the Dhamma, you are reading Suttas and more, you know that investigative path. So you are a Dhammanusari. So you are in the path. So then there is no way to collapse. And as you are continuing, at one day you become a stream winner. Okay, now the practice is irreversible. So you may not fall down now. So within 7 lifetimes you completely unbind. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Good. Okay, I think there are no more questions. So I invite Venerable Dhammosada to conduct the sharing of merits. Yeah.
For all the merits we have accrued today, we would like to extend them to our teachers, our relatives, all deities. May all deities protect the Dhamma and the Buddha Sasana for a long time. And may the seeds of Dhamma that we have received continue growing, producing path, fruition, and Nibbana. I invite everyone to join in the recitation of the traditional Pali verses for the sharing of merits. Ittavata chammehi sambatam punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata chammehi sambatam punya sampadang sabbe sat anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata chammehi sambatam punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasatta ca bummatta deva naga mahittika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu sasanang. Akasatta ca bummatta deva naga mahittika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu desanang. Akasatta ca bummatta deva naga mahittika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu mamparang. Idang o nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang o nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang o nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavanimbana patiya. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavanimbana patiya. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavanimbana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.